want to talk about the hypocritical nature of the cult of the anti-narcissist. Um, I'm going to coin this term, the cult of the anti-narcissist. Uh, there are a lot of people on YouTube that are creating awareness about narcissism and sociopathy. They are, sounding the bell for a lot of people. And I was once a part of that, that grouping of people that believed that we need to raise awareness about these phenomena. We need to diagnose these people. We need to call them what they are. We need to expose them, etc., etc., etc. But as with most things in life, when new events arise, you revise your thesis. I believe that it is useful, extremely useful, to understand the nature of the NPD personality, the sorts of behaviors that they display, and to basically make a personal decision not to be around that energy and not to participate in that energy, and also not to just to refuse to basically be pulled into that vortex. I think it's invaluable information for people, because they can protect themselves from toxic energy fields that narcissists and sociopaths emit. But there is a problem, and nobody's talking about it, at least not within this community. And the problem is that if you stay in the space of being constantly engaged with this topic, it becomes all-consuming. And the reason why it becomes all-consuming is there's no resolution to it. Since the dawn of time, there was never a resolution to the problem of evil. And many people in domestic violence situations that have narcissistic spouses end up dead and buried. There was an Amber Alert recently in New Jersey about this boy who, I'm sorry, it was New York, who died, who was kidnapped by his father, and his father killed his mother, but returned the boy. If that woman would have understood I'm not sure actually if she knew. Maybe she did know. But if she had studied the narcissistic personality, she would have been in a better position to negotiate the hostage situation that she was in. Being married to somebody like that, a predator, and having a child with them is probably the worst kind of hostage situation you can be in, without it actually physically being a hostage situation. And while that's valuable, it didn't lead to her life being saved. So we really have to weigh what really is important. Is it important to devote ourselves to exposing these people, confronting them, engaging them, you know, throwing a holy war against them? Or is it more important to develop our own other qualities alongside this kind of activism? Because the trouble with this activism, with any activism, is you're never going to convince everybody that you are right, regardless of what it is. It's a controversial topic, narcissism. Not everybody is positioned to understand it, and while it makes sense for it to be a tool in your arsenal of life to be able to avoid scammers or rapists or murderers by examining their traits and knowing to stay away from them, it can't be the be all and end all of your life, because that is, if you don't guard your other resources, if you don't invest time in finding a good job, a good lifestyle, decent people to surround yourself with, etc., 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 you will stay in a position of vulnerability. You will stay in a position of anxiety and stress, and also anger, frustration, and etc. And when you have that look of anxiety, frustration, anger, and vendetta, then you're only going to keep attracting more narcissists and sociopaths. You may have the tools to negotiate a hostage situation with them and to basically tell them off, but that energy is still bad for you to be around, And that investment, that spiritual investment in exposing them and seeing, that intellectual investment in knowing who they are and knowing how they operate only goes so far, You should try to avoid them at all costs. You shouldn't engage them, because the whole nature of their personality is very dangerous. You have to understand that they do not value human life, and while you may have gotten away from one of them, right? The reality is that some of them really do not value human life. So to surround yourself with that energy and to stay in an energetic space where you attract them is extremely, extremely dangerous. So the cult of the anti-narcissists, it plays on our hatred of these people. Well, you have every right to hate them, but it can't be all-encompassing, because that puts you in a position where you could end up like that woman who had the misfortune of having a child with this piece of shit. She moved 5 times. She had a restraining order, but that didn't change the outcome. These are the sorts of people that believe that they can get away with anything, that are deluded enough to feel that anybody's, game, and that they are above the law, So if you got away from these people, if you figured this out, congratulations. But don't stay in a space of being combative with them 24/7, because that is dangerous, It may not be your fault, and this is the critical thing I want to emphasize. It may not be your fault that you have gotten into this situation, but once you're out of it, stay out of it. And you have to really question the motivations. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but the motivations of some vloggers on YouTube for posting material that's related to the disorder itself, without examining how we can get out of the narcissistic cycling, right? You have to question the motives of those people, because when a person is addicted to toxic bonding, this information is like, I've experienced it myself. It's like snorting cocaine for you. You are so primed to want to understand narcissism that you could spend years and months and decades, eons on these forums because of the nature of the addictive cycling and the addictive bond. So these people, are they really helping you? Yes, they're putting the information out there, right, for you to see, but are they really helping you, and are they really in it for you to get better, to progress, and to elevate yourself as a person within the crazy society that we live in that enables psychopathic behavior and enables psychopathic people? We have to ask some more questions, like, what makes me happy? What makes me want to get up in the morning? Who am I? What do I want to do, with my time? Who do I value right now in my life? Who do I not value? Who do I really not value? If you're not asking those questions, then you will always be in the cult of the anti-narcissist. It feels fantastic. You're in another version of the capture bond where you're throwing punches at them, back and forth, without them being there. You're hating on them. You're depleting yourself. You're lining somebody else's, some guru's pockets. I'm not saying that that's the only reason why they do what they do. But in the absence of a solution, examining the problem is futile. Absolutely futile. Presenting a problem without a solution is a recipe for, anger festering within the victim's soul. Reactivity, disappointment, and it doesn't lead you into a positive path to hate them forever and have that swallow up your soul. The idea is to regenerate your soul. That's the real question that needs to be asked at the end of the day. So gurus that are there and that are encouraging you to hate them and to, be spiteful and, engage them and analyze them and, have this avoidant tendency where you walk around and you try to read people's psychopathic traits, are indulging, a part of your soul that is not the best of you, at the end of the day. It's useful for a time, right, to reverse the roles and that's why people can get stuck, because the reality is that they are right. but beyond that, there's nothing, in this information. It kind of angers me because I understand that I could have, if I chose to, gotten out of that dynamic of hating on them earlier if there was an exit strategy, in place. If there was basically somebody telling me that, listen, you can hate them, you have every right to hate them, you don't have to engage them, they're not your type of people, but you have to explore other venues, other ways of being. I came to that conclusion by myself only after an immense amount of suffering and failing to convince people that I'm correct. you know that's the bottom line. I was so in it. I put on my boxing gloves, and that has a time and place. But if you're not careful, it can flood you. Just like victimhood can flood you. And that is the nature of the anxiety disorder that it happens. If you can't refocus your attention from this topic onto another topic and be fully immersed in that other topic, if you can't be fully immersed in what people are saying to you without having, this background noise of narcissism, you have to see that as a problem within yourself that you have to fix. Because it's your headspace and it's your brain and it's your energy that's being extorted, And any guru that encourages just the extortion of that energy doesn't have your best interests in mind, in my opinion. They're only out, in my opinion, to have ad revenue, to become a professional voice in this field, which is fine. I at one point wanted to write a book about strictly NPD, but what changed my mind about it was that right as I was writing in this book, I encountered a potentially life-threatening situation with a narcissist. That opened my eyes to the idea that I should not be, so fixated on narcissism that I can't, train my focus on other things. Because within that position of vulnerability, of constantly thinking about them, you can be attacked again. Because, your brain is still compromised because you're still in a sympathetic overload, and they sense that. So it's very dangerous to stay in the headspace of narcissism all the time. Somebody's talking to you about a petunia, you're thinking about narcissism. Somebody's telling you that the sky is blue and the grass is green, and you have to dilute that by pointing out narcissism. That is part of your pathology now. You have to remove the flooding in your brain in order to be well, in order to it's not something that you will erase entirely, because it's become part of your conception of reality, right? Once you see something, you can't unsee it, right? However, it's in your best interest to be mindful about other things. And that's not discussed and that's not talked about within this community enough. That's my 2 cents. Stay away from people and gurus that are going to encourage you to just be immersed, spiritually and mentally, constantly in this topic. There's only so much you can look into it before it becomes all-consuming. It's not in your best interest for it to be all-consuming. Remember that. Anyway, kisses.